Welcome to Her Remarkable History. Remember, to support our channel, please subscribe. The Tower of London's Tiny Dungeon, Little Ease. The Tudor period is remembered today as a time of executions, accusations and brutality. Kings and queens such as Henry VIII, Mary I and Elizabeth I ordered many executions across England, and it was also a time where one of the most notorious fortresses in history gained a reputation for torture and pain. The Tower of London, in the centuries before, had been a royal residence and a palace where the royalty would stay in the days before their coronations. But during the Tudor period, it became a royal prison, where the phrase "sent them to the Tower" usually meant a one-way ticket into the prison before a trip to the executioner's scaffold nearby on Tower Hill. But much is known about the use of the rack inside of the tower, and there was also a little dungeon and a cell, which was horrific to be locked inside. But what is the story of this torture room that became known as Little Ease? Little Ease was an oubliette-style dungeon found inside the oldest part of the Tower of London, the White Tower, which dates back to the period shortly after the Norman Conquest. It was found inside of the dungeons in the basement of the White Tower, and was a place which was greatly feared. The comparison to the oubliette relates to its size, and also the fact when a prisoner was locked and shut inside of the cell, they could not stand or sit, and they were forced to crouch over in agony, sometimes for days on end. These were prisoners who had been tortured using other devices such as the rack and the manacles, or even the scavenger's daughter. So, to be locked inside of a hole in a wall in an awkward position would be physical pain, but also psychological torture. The windowless Little Ease measured around 1.2 metres or 4 square feet, and it was very small and cramped. It was a suffocating dark space where little oxygen would get in, and nearby the prisoners would hear the other torture which was going on. But it was during the Tudor period that devices and strategies such as Little Ease became used, and during Henry VIII's reign, a number of people were taken for torture inside of the Tower of London. The Tudor monarchs were obsessed with the worry of rebellion, conspiracy and assassination, to the point they were willing to break people who were considered to be possible spies or rebels. It was said that torture, under Henry VIII, it was frequently employed, and it was only used in a small number of cases in the reigns of Edward VI and Mary. It was whilst Elizabeth sat on the throne that it was made use of more than in any other period of history. But Little Ease was reserved for only the most serious of cases, and for the prisoners who needed breaking most, or who had committed the worst crimes. One of these took place during Henry VIII's reign, as a woman found herself imprisoned at the Tower, accused of being involved in the theft of a large sum of gold from the king. Alice Tankerville was a schemer. She knew how to get better treatment inside of the prison, as she would coerce and seduce her guard, a beefeater named John Board, and it's believed the pair then fell in love. They planned to escape together, and one evening they managed to slip out of the walls of the tower. They filed past the gatehouse, and then the night watch approached, and the pair were apprehended. Alice Tankerville would be hanged in chains at the low water mark in the River Thames, meaning that as the tide rose, she would be slowly drowned and would be executed. But John Board, being a beefeater and a guard, had inflicted such shame on the newly devised royal bodyguards that it was believed he needed strict punishing. Board would be thrown into Little Ease after he was beaten black and blue by the other guards for aiding an escape attempt, and he was then hanged in chains above the walls of the fortress for the ravens and the birds to pick at. There were other examples of prisoners being housed inside of Little Ease, and records highlight a few names. This includes: on the 3rd of May 1555, Stephen Happs, for his lurid behaviour and obstinacy, committed this day to the Tower to remain in Little Ease for 2 or 3 days till he may be further examined. Also, on the 10th of January 1591, Richard Topcliffe is to take part in an examination in the Tower of George Beasley, seminary priest, and Robert Humberson, his companion, and if you shall see good course by their obstinate refusal to declare the truth of such things as shall be laid to their charges in Her Majesty's behalf, then shall you by authority hereof commit them to the prison called Little Ease, or to such other ordinary place of punishment as hath been accustomed to be used in those cases, and to certify proceedings from time to time. But following the death of Elizabeth I, one of the most famous prisoners to ever be locked up inside of the Tower of London would be thrown inside of the tiny dungeon. Guy Fawkes, the main gunpowder plotter, was imprisoned there and was tortured for information regarding the plot to blow up King James I and Parliament. He would be racked brutally and then locked inside of Little Ease, but after a gruelling ordeal in which the king personally consented to have him tortured, the combination of Little Ease and the rack inflicted Fawkes' confession. Following Guy Fawkes' confession, Little Ease was not used any more. It was said following this that the room was disused, and it was believed to have been then bricked up, and its harrowing stories still within the walls of the tower somewhere. Others have debated its location, being inside of the Flint Tower, but today Little Ease may be lost to time, but it's certain that one of the beefeaters whose works there today must know the location of the infamous dungeon that inflicted so much suffering. Thank you for watching, and to support, please subscribe to Her Remarkable History. Thank you.